Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
All right, and papers in hand, we're set for the newspaper review. Let me welcome Chukwudi Abuja. Good morning to you.
Victor, how are you doing this morning?
Great.
Good
And
to
you?
see you. I'm okay. Could be better, but we thank God for small mercies. Hello, Demo.
Good to have you.
I like to be like you, if only for 5 minutes in a day. Something about you. No, they do good like me.
All right, no problem. Let's get to the do. And I have the leadership to begin with. Just above beside the nameplates there, Osimed donates 5 million naira to support popular vendors' cancer treatment. You find details of that on page 53. And the lead story here reads, lawyers, security experts back Tinubu's emergency declaration. There must be more clarity, experts say, and action necessary to curb further spread. That's according to lawyers, and you get details of that on page 4. In politics, Jonathan evacuated from Guinea-Bissau after coup. That's according to federal government. Police chief withdraws 11,566 personnel from VIPs on page 4. Senate proposes death penalty for kidnapping, page 7. And finally, Sheikh Dahiru Bauchi dies at 98, leaves behind 100 children, 406 grandchildren. All right, and President Tinubu and others more, you get details on page 7. On to the blueprint. Tinubu approves membership of U.S.-Nigeria Joint Working Group is the lead story here. Bandits invade Niger, abduct 24, amputate blind man's hand. Police recover 210 rounds of ammunition on Zaria, Funtua Road. Withdraw 11,566 personnel from VIPs is on page 11. And for some reasons, this other story here, Dahiru Bauchi dies at 101. The other says 98. And Tinubu says he was a father, voice of moderation and reason. All right, I think I just leave it here because most of the other stories we have taken on the other side of the reading.
Okay, let me just have the Nation's newspaper with me, and just above that nameplate, we have new excise bill could undermine president's fiscal reform agenda, organized private sector ones. Details on page 2. And the major headline reads, Nigeria-US Joint Working Group to hold security talks. NSA Ribado leads federal government's team. Coordinated abduction of 42 in Niger FCT suburb. If you want the details of that story, you go to page 2. World Bank canvasses slash of import tariff to lower inflation. Details of that story, it's on page 3. And AU ECOWAS wife says no to coup in Guinea-Bissau. Details of that story also can be found on page 2. Chooks?
Jonathan had to be spirited away from the eye of the storm. Jonathan, we know, apart from the fact that he cast the image of a dove, he actually behaves like a man of peace. Let's give it to him. Has been in the forefront of ensuring that the democracy happening in Africa was properly supervised. This election monitoring, he had given that to himself, and he's been doing so well. But it is a big irony that as he went to supervise what's happening in Guinea-Bissau, people decided to do what? It doesn't make sense, you know? But then Africa would occasionally assert its Africanness. We're still a developing society, that's the truth. The other time I said, look, if you think that tribal wars have ended in Africa, they have only now put on modern clothes. It's still happening. That's where we are. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is.
I am happy that our former head of state was taken out intact.
At least the AU, ECOWAS, and CO, they have risen against the coup in Guinea-Bissau. So
fine, they have risen against it, but that would be by word of mouth again. We were actually thinking that an African high command would have taken shape and roots as far back as Obasanjo's time, to even help us shore up democracy on these shaky shores. It's unfortunate that things are still the way they are. It's word of mouth as far as I'm concerned. Look at Niger, for instance. At a point, we were thinking that Big Brother was going to throw a few threats across the border and get these errant men in uniform to behave themselves. But we had to step back.
It didn't work.
Some people were even saying, look, some of those people, they are relatives and all that. So you need to tread with caution when you deal with African things. And that's at the root of Africa still talking about the same things more than 50 years on. These are the little things. Thinking has to be straightened out to land on the turf of normality so that we can start getting better as a continent.
Okay.
Coups this time, they don't mean anything to me. But the surprising thing was that a journalist forum, a WhatsApp forum platform, a reasonable number of journalists were supporting the coups in Burkina Faso and all that. In fact, it made me distance myself from that. There's no way I would expect people who should be canvassing that democracy, keeps rising higher and higher.
Okay, what
it doesn't make sense.
What was their point for supporting?
And they're saying that the civilian rule doesn't seem to be working. And I said, how could we say that? Even if that is the truth, it is still our job as journalists to say that is not where we should go. That's my own opinion. Victor, you're about saying something.
No, I was just going to say, even before he asked, I was almost going to say, without knowing the people you're talking about,
yes,
that they would say, democracy isn't working. I just knew that's what they were going to say.
Victor, Chukudi must be allowed to choose who leads him. I don't know about you. Who would handle the rest later. You don't put yourself in a cage when God and nature have said, come and go out and be happy, It's unfortunate.
I think, in Africa, we just have to improve on the level of governance. That's just a thing. If the level of governance improved, I think all these things were reduced.
I always like to differ a little. Level of governance, very important. But remember, I said the other time, you don't bring politicians to reform in Abuja. These politicians, many of them are the way they left their communities. So the king, the subjects, they have a job to do. EFCC can chase a politician into the hinterland. Even though people know that he's been indicted over financial misconduct and all that, they will still receive him, give him a red carpet reception.
And they will carry placards.
So what are we talking about? Look,
son.
I know what I'm talking about. Africa has to think.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Nigeria-US joint working group to hold security talks. NSA Ribadu leads federal government's team.
When I tell you that Tinubu is a master dialogue maker, look at the way the Trump threat was followed up. That is diplomacy. I like that. I like what is happening. Remember the Minister of Information was saying that the way Trump was putting it was not quite the way it is. And we all share that opinion.
Yeah.
But in spite of the fact that Trump was wrong about us, we didn't rest on our oars. Look at the way they are dousing it. That is diplomacy. And that is the way it should be. I really commend the follow-up. Ribadu, I think, is leading the team. Defense Minister is also there. The joint, team would be able to see the situation the way it is and know how to
And the president is monitoring.
Of course, yes. He didn't take this lightly. Imagine U.S. coming into Nigeria and doing what they thought they would do. They would leave us with more problems. Because even those people who are not supporting this from the fundamentalists will begin to think about somebody siding up. Do you understand?
They want to take advantage
Those are
of
little things you should be careful of. You don't get reckless, you know?
Right, and the Senate is proposing death penalty for kidnapping.
I don't know. It's not to do with my religion. It has to do with my humanism. I don't think anyone should face the death penalty for anything. But if our lawmakers
even if they put others through death.
But they kill people.
There are people. There are countries where
whatever
people are not
deters.
put to death.
Whatever deters.
No. I'm saying, lend me your ears. I'm saying, in spite of these things happening in some countries, they will tell you, no, death penalty is not it. So it depends on how you want to think. But the most important thing is that the Senate is giving attention to something that really has gravity, that should trouble Victor, trouble Chukwudi, and that is the message. Whatever they come up with at the end of the day is going to be something that deters. But I would rather say, please, let's not rush a death penalty. That's an opinion, please.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Opinion.
Well,
We'll see you again on Monday.
Now you want to opinionate me out.
All right. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue after this break. Please don't go away.